Now it's time for Inspirational Women, and my guest, Lyra Logan, an MIT master trainer in educational mobile computing. Lyra is also Executive Vice President and General Counsel of the Florida Education Fund, which is a nonprofit that creates and implements educational programs for underrepresented groups. The program is invaluable for so many of our youth, parents too, and Lyra is here to share some insights. Lyra Logan, good morning, and many thanks for joining us this morning.
Kate, thank you for having me.
And may I say, I am in just complete awe of you. Technology and I are not necessarily friends, I guess you might say. I mean, we get along, but certainly not always very well. So anyone who really has, well, for you, you have these extraordinary skills, and then you are writing books about this, and you're working with teachers, with kids, and encouraging them and building their skills. So my deepest appreciation and awe of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So actually, before we really launch into our conversation about what is going on in schools and such, what about you? How did you really come to the technology field? Was this kind of a natural inclination and interest of yours?
Well, I consider myself to be an old timer in tech, so I grew up and even had my early years working solely as an attorney. I'm still an attorney for the fund that I work for, but I was working through the years with no computer on my desk, if anyone can believe that, and there was no email, and there were certainly no cell phones, etc. But when that all came out, let's say, and where we all started having email and personal computers, I got enthralled with web design, and I wanted to see if I could, create something that everyone in the world could see. And so that intrigued me. And so I taught myself how to do web design, and then also to make them interactive, I had to learn how to do web programming. So that started my interest, and sort of that was my introduction to technology and computer programming.
So that's really quite fascinating, because you're so much self-taught and just curious. So I think that there's a way that transfers so well to encouraging students today, especially in the environment that we find ourselves in, where there is so much remote classroom going on.
Right. I think if everyone I know we're all very, very busy and somewhat stressed, but if you just take this opportunity to really be curious, and, because a lot of folks have been having, parents and even teachers have complained that they may not have received sort of the technical assistance they needed before we had to switch to virtual here recently. And so I think just a natural curiosity and willingness to explore can sort of help in that regard, although I know we're all short of time. But because we, back in, I guess in this spring, PC Magazine had a story about how nearly 2/3 of parents said they were at a loss because they didn't feel like they knew how to use the technology. And so I would say that you just have to sort of explore for yourself, visit the websites, look at their help sections, and certainly YouTube can be a positive. If you've got your appropriate parent filters on, YouTube and other video sharing websites have hundreds now of good instructional videos on most of the popular online platforms and tools that the schools are using during this remote learning.
So as you say this, and I think about the challenges and how you approached your own learning in technology, I'm going to kind of look at this as an out-of-the-box approach. So rather than being so frustrated and feeling backed up, if parents potentially, and granted this would take some, I guess, adjusting and there's time involved, but in a kind of more ideal situation, if parents could kind of maybe then work alongside kids and do the exploring, there's a kind of education that is really perhaps even which is fundamental, I think, to just learning in general, that if you do this kind of exploring with curiosity, you're going to ultimately meet the goals of what you need to in a classroom.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong. I think maybe sometimes you want to, parents and even teachers want to always be the one sharing the knowledge. And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with exploring together, learning together, and seeing that as something that you can do throughout your life whenever you encounter something new, that you can figure it out. You can take time and sort of embrace anything that's presented to you that's new and go ahead and figure out how it works, how to use it.
Right. And maybe at first it would feel frustrating, but I think ultimately it would alleviate a lot of stress and could even maybe be fun.
Yes, I agree. I think it's very fun to explore, and I do consider myself to be sort of a lifelong learner, and I think that's a good quality in the sense of then not being overwhelmed by when you must confront new things, as we've all had to do here of late.
Exactly. And I love that. I appreciate that term, lifelong learner. Having said that, I'm just, not very adept at computers and technology. On the other hand, I still regard myself as a lifelong learner. We can do it in so many different areas, but certainly technology is quite critical right now just because of the circumstances we are in with this pandemic.
Yes, it is. It's very critical, and I think I'm sort of embracing it even more as really the key to a lot of the problems to finding a lot of solutions for the problems that we've encountered during the pandemic. I mean, what would we have done without? Well, for me, I feel like the program or the application, a computer application that's been the most helpful for me and to keep me from feeling isolated, and is the web video conference software that many people are using, either Zoom or Google Meet. I mean, there are many of them, but I'm embracing that as a solution to for so many of us, not just with work, but with interacting with family and staying connected in a time where you're alone a lot.
Exactly. Yes. So in that regard, we might consider ourselves to be fortunate that this is in place versus, this happening, say, even just 30 years ago. We certainly had none of this kind of infrastructure available to ourselves.
Right. And so there have been a lot of solutions and with technology. And so that is one of the reasons why I think exposing students to computer science and technology is very important. Not that we're trying to make them all computer scientists, certainly, but just, acknowledging and knowing that you can have the power to help create some of these solutions in times like these and other challenging times, I think is very empowering.
So one of the challenges, I guess, that does exist is that are we looking at kids from perhaps more the immigrant families where English may not be the first language, particularly for the parents, and there might be a challenge there of parents being able to feel confident enough to help their own kids?
Well, I think, the sense that I have gotten from hearing anecdotal, accounts as well as reading broadly on the internet is that it's just been that parents really haven't had to necessarily become the teacher like they have here. They've had to sort of be, and I know many parents are very involved, but they didn't necessarily before this time have to actually know every single assignment that a child had and sort of try to walk a child through that if a teacher wasn't available. And then, of course, in the environments that you're talking about, in the rural or low income communities where they don't even have access to the technology, to the computers or to the internet. The parents are now having to actually be the teacher. So I think that's what has, in addition to having to help a kid get online and get into all these different, 5 and 6 different websites each day, they're also having to be the teacher. And so it's, in some ways that's obviously very challenging, but in others it's, there are some things that schools aren't teaching as much as you may think they are. And so it's a time as a parent where you now have the ability to choose what a child can learn in some part. I mean, obviously you want to follow and help them with the assignments that the teachers are giving them, but this is it's an opportunity as well to expose them to other subjects.
Right. And as we were just saying earlier about that lifelong learning and being curious, is
Right.
use kind of a basic part of a class and then just kind of branch out and have fun as you explore.
Right. And I know there was because we were speaking about technology and computer science, there was a survey or a report out in 2019 that said 9 out of 10 parents, so 90% of parents, want their children to learn computer science, but only 45% of the high schools are teaching it. And so, what an opportunity this now is when you're basically immersed in technology to just learn more about it, learn more about the hardware, learn more, about coding or about other aspects of computer science.
And you mentioned coding, and isn't that an area that you actually have expertise and really specialize in with kids?
Yes, it is. I'm passionate about it, having learned it again when I was telling you when I was doing websites and wanted them to be more interactive than just something that you can look at on the screen. And so, yes, I decided to start a program at the nonprofit that I work at. That's called the Florida Education Fund, and it's called Code Masters. And we work with students from grades 4 through 12, teaching them computer programming through a lot of fun, in a lot of fun contexts like robotics and game design and web design, and also artificial intelligence a little bit, and of course mobile app development. So it's very exciting to me to see even those very young children be able to understand the fundamental concepts that they'll be able to use as they go on in learning different computer coding, computer programming languages.
So I'm jealous because I see these young kids, the young brains, they're just such sponges that it's just so easy to pick up on that and work with it and just really, kind of use that as a launching pad. So that is really giving them quite an excellent foundation for the future. For now and for the future.
Yes, definitely it is. Because what I guess have learned, having tried my hand at several different programming languages, is that they're all built on the same concepts and principles and foundations. So whether you're taking a language like the one I use in the book Learn to Program with App Inventor, it's a programming environment really for beginners, because you're not typing tedious code, you're dragging and dropping blocks that encompass that code and have that coding functionality in the blocks. And so it's very easy, it's visual, and but at the same time it allows you to create mobile apps that have all the cool features, the mobile technology features like the camera and the GPS, etc. And so as you're building these apps with me through the book, you're also learning those fundamental programming concepts so that you can take them and build other apps, and then even progress to a text-based language that kind of scares people. You'll be able to move to that level and use the same concepts you're learning in the book.
And so is this part of what goes on with the foundation with the Florida Education Fund?
Yes, part of our work is to work with very, very young children, just because our main programs are education programs and fellowships for students studying for their PhDs. And so what we do is make sure that we always have a steady pipeline of students who've been exposed broadly and who may not go on as far as getting a PhD, but certainly know that it's available, know what it is, what it takes to get to that educational level.
So that is so excellent to, again, start young and have an idea, if that is really where their interest is, that really guides them along and prepares them for that future.
Exactly. And a lot of what we find that we must do in the communities that we work in, because we work with a lot of underserved students, and one of the main things that they need to do that makes kids in underserved communities successful is merely seeing someone who may have come from the same community doing something like computer programming or going on and getting a PhD, then it just almost instantly then know that they too can do it. And so that's part of the work as well.
And I think that that's what we really are seeing during this time is we're seeing highlighted those areas that there is the inequity, that there is that need to help students who are, for whatever reason, in these circumstances that they don't have the same kinds of privileges. So we can look at this COVID time as having highlighted that, and what you're doing, having started before the pandemic, I know, but this helps to show that there is a model existing that can really focus on it, and as you say, showing these young people what is possible, because there are people that look like them doing the same thing. So that is very exciting.
Yes, it is exciting, and it's work we've been doing since 1984. It's just sort of filling the gaps, because you certainly, it takes more often than just the schools or just parents, and so we are there to sort of fill those gaps and put in after school programming and summer programming that can expose kids very broadly to the possibilities.
So since 84, that's a lot of years. So you see the results of that, we'll call it investment, of that time and encouragement. And has it really been positive? Have there been a lot of students take this course of action and really move forward in the tech field?
Oh, many, because because STEM is a focus, STEM being science, technology, engineering, and math. We have like I was saying, we have a doctoral fellowship program, and so about 60% of our fellowships that we award each year for the PhD fellowship program, the doctoral fellowship program, go to people in STEM, and so many of the students whom we work with from the elementary level to the secondary level and through college are go into the sciences and technology and engineering and math. And we're able to then look back at our even our current fellows and, of course, our graduates with the PhDs to come back and sort of be those role models and mentors for our students. And so there's been much success with that.
That is really super. So this is actually, well, it has Florida in the name, Florida Education Fund. Are you aware of this replicated anywhere across the country?
I know there are other entities that do similar work. So yes, I don't know if every state or if there's one in, if they're all over the country, but certainly there are other entities that do very similar work.
And we were talking about, or mentioned just briefly, touched on your book, Learn to Program with App Inventor. So here's an opportunity perhaps in areas that, might be more rural areas that don't have access to maybe an entity in a metropolitan area, that they can pick up the book and use this as a great resource. Again, parents and kids learning side by side.
Exactly. And what I was thinking, now even if you have all the technology, it's really now a good opportunity to sort of unplug for at least a while, and go ahead and pick up the book and just read and try to focus on just learning the computer programming aspects, learning about what technology can do and what you can do with technology. Of course, you'll have to jump back on the computers as we walk through creating 8 really interesting apps. But at least for a time, you can unplug and read and reflect upon all the basic and fundamentals of computer programming.
So that is another aspect of education that maybe isn't part of the classroom work, but really fits that. You're doing the reading, so maybe it's not an assigned book, but it's the additional reading, and it's building that skill and comprehension. All of that tied in together.
Right, and on a topic that you may not be getting in your current school. So it's a really good opportunity. And another thing when we're talking about people in the rural areas or people who do not have access to either the computers or the internet access that would be needed for remote. I was actually preparing for a presentation to talk with teachers about how you can use this app Inventor that I write about in the book to create learning apps. In fact, one of the apps in the book is I think it's really fun, but I guess I like math, so I walk the reader through creating an app where you can practice your multiplication tables, and so it does not need to be connected to the internet. And so imagine if teachers knew how to create a quick app that, even though a kid can't get on and do all you would want them to do on a learning website, at least they could practice some skills, create a quick app so that their students could download it. They'd need internet for that, but then they can take the phone and just work on those skills.
That is so perfect. Again, kind of, finding ways around problems or challenges and coming up with a great way to get good learning done. And it might be fun because it's an app. It will be an interesting way to go through it.
Yes. And it should be fun. I mean, the app actually speaks. It says correct, and of course it says wrong when you're wrong. But I think it's a time that we can all see what has been done to sort of help us through the pandemic with technology, and then join in and help create some of those solutions. We all have the ability and certainly what it takes to do it.
And what I gather from that, too, is it is learning at your own pace, which has a lot of value.
Yes,
right?
It is learning at your own pace. Certainly what the builders of App Inventor, the App Inventor platform, always say is that it's, and a lot of people use the platform to get a quick prototype of an app that they're thinking about putting on the Google Play Store, but and so how quickly you can create with the platform so that you don't get bogged down and it doesn't take months and months to come up with an app. But certainly it's nothing that you have to rush through. You can take your time and learn how to do it, and then it does take time to actually come up with a good idea. So once you learn how to do something that someone's showing you to do, you certainly want to be able to then take that knowledge and and create something that you come up with on your own, and you certainly have that ability as well.
Exactly. So it's such that cliche kind of thing of win-win. It being able to, right?
Yeah.
So let's mention your website, Lyra.
Okay, yes, the book does have its own website called programwithappinventor.org, and on there, we can continue the conversation. People email me from there, get my email address from there all the time, and what we did was I worked with a publisher on the book, and that was a great experience as well. I'd never worked with a publisher before, but I had so many different editors, and I had a tech reviewer, and she happened to be a computer scientist, and so we worked together to create lesson plans for the book. So when you go to that website, this was specifically for teachers, you can also email me and get the lesson plans, and I've been sending them all over, which is exciting, to Africa and Europe and of course states, people from the various states, and we also can schedule an app building class, or we can just continue the conversation about empowering ourselves to build our own technological solutions.
Exactly. It sounds so exciting, and you make yourself so readily available, which hopefully it's not overly taxing, as it becomes more and more people note it and get in contact with you. But hopefully there's just enough that is stimulating on your side, but people then really get excited and see the possibilities, and it's really it sounds like such a perfect class that's adaptable for whatever age level too.
Yes, it is. You usually starting in middle school, you would work with this particular platform, the App Inventor platform, but all the way up to any age would certainly. If you want to be able to create with technology, you certainly can. And then once you learn how to code, I always say you absolutely have the power to do anything. So I may be, I am, passionate about it, but certainly it's a good skill to have in the times that we're living in.
And just cycling back round to where we were speaking earlier about parents and their kids together, this again works for whatever age level then, and is really such a good collaboration in so many ways. It's just going to be fun and learning, and I think people will feel encouraged and maybe really excited.
I think so, yes. I've seen parents, and in our program, certainly we involve parents, and we have the occasional parent night where parents can come in and try to do it as well. And then it's so beautiful to watch the children sort of become the teachers, and everybody learning the same thing together.
That's a good one. The kids feel really a sense of pride and empowerment when they're able to do that.
Exactly.
Right. So we mentioned the website. You also are available to follow on Twitter and Facebook, right?
Yes. So the Twitter is App Inventor Book, and then that's the same on Facebook. I'm at App Inventor Book, and then Instagram is Learn to Program.
So many ways to follow you, learn more. Certainly, as we were saying, this book is such a great tool. Learn to Program with App Inventor, and just such a great collaboration, encouragement, and finding ways around feeling stressed with a situation, being more proactive, and finding the solution.
Exactly. This is the perfect time to sort of put that into practice.
Well, you are certainly very encouraging and such a great role model for us approaching this way of learning, Lyra Logan.
Well, thank you so much, Kate. I really have appreciated the opportunity to talk with you.
Well, it's been fun and informative. And again, many thanks. We'll look forward to great results with all of our kids and parents.
Thank you so much.
And with that, we are at the end of a very full hour of Inspirational Women with Lyra Logan and Sunday Morning Magazine with Dr. Daniel LaRoche. I'm Kate Daniels, your host, and I greatly appreciate your sharing this hour with me and these special guests. For details you might have missed or information you'd like to know, please just send me an email, kated@warm1069.com, and I'll get right back to you. Also, if you'd like to listen again or to share these important stories with your family and friends, find the podcast on our Warm 1069 webpage. Just click on the podcast tab, then either of the show names, and then look for the guest names. I now wish you and your family a day of learning, something new to grow, to be healthy. Have a week of the same. And then please plan to join me again next weekend for another hour of Sunday Morning Magazine and Inspirational Women on Warm 1069. Good morning.